All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I think we're just about to get started. If there's anyone in the back of the class and you want to come closer to the whiteboard, you're welcome. It's great to have everyone all together, so if you want to move forward, please do. I'm glad to see you're exercising your free will and autonomy. All right. Thank you very much for being here. And I think we're ready to officially get started. So, good morning, bon matin. Thank you for joining me today. Je vous remercie tous d'avoir fait le temps de nous joindre aujourd'hui. Je suis très reconnaissant. I respect your time. I know how busy you are. And thank you again. It means a lot. I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Anishinaabe, the Dakota, the Dene, Inuiaq, and Saulteaux peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. I also acknowledge that our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. Every time we make a land acknowledgement, it's important to take a moment to think about why we're saying those words. It's not just a formality. And today, as I think about the land acknowledgement and what it means, I'm thinking about the First Nations all across this province that have welcomed us into their communities as partners and friends for many years now, always in the pursuit of a shared goal of seeing their children thrive in their homes, surrounded by their families, benefiting from all that their cultures have to give them. Just as we acknowledge the sometimes painful and ugly truth of our past and our present, I also acknowledge the shared humanity that we all have and the duty that we also share to make Manitoba a little bit better every day. Now I'd like to invite you to join me in a mindful moment. So I'll invite you to make yourself comfortable. Feel yourself in your chair, your feet on the ground. If you're comfortable, close your eyes or lower your gaze and take a few deep breaths and arrive. Thank you very much. Now, it wouldn't be a town hall without a snack. There are cookies, or there will be cookies, and drinks at the back of the cafeteria there. So before you go, please feel free to help yourself to something. And let's all give a big thank you to the kitchen staff for putting together the refreshments. So thank you to everyone. It's always a treat. It's always delicious. It's wonderful. Let's also take a minute to reflect on the purpose of a town hall. These are an opportunity to reaffirm our community and our shared purpose. St.Amant is a complicated place. We deliver an incredibly diverse array of services and specialized services to children and adults all across Manitoba. We have multiple funders, we have innumerable stakeholders, and it can be easy to forget in the day-to-day sometimes just how connected we all are. We are all here to support Manitobans with disabilities to live their best lives. And no matter how different one service might be from the next, we should always remember that as far as our funders or the families of people we provide services to or the community as a whole is concerned, St.Amant is St.Amant. That's why it's so important that we see just how much we have in common with one another and why it's so important that as much as possible we bring our services together across those lines to create a truly integrated and whole experience for the people that we support. Our strategic plan is a unifying document that lays out a future for our role in Manitoba at a time when the people we support and the world are changing. And today it's changing a little too fast, it feels sometimes, hey? Town Hall is also a time for dialogue. I'm here to listen and learn from you too. So we'll close out our town hall with questions from you. There will be a microphone available, and so when the time comes, please don't be shy, come forward, ask your questions. And if you're joining online, please add your questions to the chat and we'll make sure that those get answered too. So here's a quick overview of today's agenda. Now that we're moving into the second year of our strategic plan, Chantal Champagne from the Project Management Office will share some highlights from year one and provide some updates on our plans for year two. Overall, you'll find that year two is very much an extension and a deepening of our work that's already underway. And while all of our work should be aligned with our strategic plan, the projects that Chantal will highlight are all going to bring us closer to our vision of services that are compassionate, dignified, efficient, you might say loving, and that reflect our values and commitment to the people we support. Then we've got Pearl Kavanagh-Stays and Ibukun Adetoro, who will provide some updates for us about the ongoing progress coming out of the Disrupting Racism project. Lorene Nwabo will speak about Lean Six Sigma, I hope I got that right, and an approach to improving efficiency that we're adopting here. And Michelle Everton will come to the stage to share some high-level results from the engagement survey and talk about next steps. And then finally, just before open mic, we have a great panel discussion for you today about 3 of St.Amant's crisis stabilization services. Each is distinct, but all have the same goal of preventing family or placement breakdown. Before we get there, I've got just a few updates to share with you. The first has to do with our Jordan's Principle services. For 8 years, St.Amant has been providing a number of clinical services to First Nations children and youth living on reserve through Jordan's Principle. Currently, like today, we're supporting approximately 700 kids, providing around 800 services in almost all 63 First Nations across this province. Over the years, we've served thousands and thousands of kids and delivered, I don't even know how many training sessions to communities in response to their training needs. There are also another 700 kids waiting for services on our wait lists. Since 2017, Jordan's Principle case managers and communities have been able to request services from us directly in a very simple and straightforward way. About 2 weeks ago, Indigenous Services Canada, or ISC, informed St.Amant of changes to Jordan's Principle that are being rolled out nationally. Moving forward, any service requests must be made by First Nations and submitted to ISC first for approval before they reach St.Amant or some other service provider. We're still trying to figure out what this means for us and our role in Jordan's Principle service delivery. It does appear, though, that delivering services is going to get a little more complicated. We understand that Indigenous Services Canada has a role in setting policy around Jordan's Principle, and we certainly respect and honor the rights of each First Nation to determine the health services for its children. But we're also concerned that children with disabilities could experience harm if any services end abruptly. So we're advocating for a planned and careful transition to this new service model so that children continue to receive the services that we need. I want you to know that our partners in First Nations are already reaching out to us to confirm that they still want us to be involved. They still want St.Amant to provide services. So we're engaging directly with those communities to navigate a path forward so that we can continue to do the right thing for those kids. As you know, the provincial budget was released last month. I'm pleased to confirm that St.Amant did receive funding increases, and those will allow us to continue to deliver the same level of services that we currently do despite rising costs. Our waitlist pressures remain. We have not received volume increases in response to those growing demands, and so we're going to continue to advocate to our funders and partners in government to increase capacity and ensure that we can remain a competitive employer at a time when we know wages continue to go up in other sectors. I'm also happy to share that 6 of the 7 newly built homes in the community residential program are now open, and that many people who have transitioned into community are adjusting and settling in really nicely in their homes. The 7th new home is slated to open in May, as of yesterday at least. I really just want to say a big thank you to everyone in HT, in Health and Transition Services and in the Community Residential Program for the incredible work and commitment to an excellent transition experience for every single person who's been moving out. It is so much work, and the clinical services team too. What a lot of work to do the right thing for everybody. And so I really appreciate that through all of that work, we've made sure to focus and center ourselves on the values and priorities of the people who are moving into community. So thank you. Yes, we can applaud. Yeah. And that's a perfect segue to talk about meaningful connections. 2 years ago, we launched our Meaningful Connections pilot, something that was made possible through a grant from the Réseau Compassion Network and the matching funds from the St.Amant Foundation. The original goal of this project was to make sure that every person we support residentially had 2 people who were not paid who were in their lives. We learned pretty quickly, though, that we needed to take a more person-by-person approach. Each person needed to decide for themselves what would make them happy. And that's why it was so important that staff understood that their role was not to decide what a person needed, but rather to offer experiences and education to help that person learn and decide for themselves what they want in their own lives. We relied very heavily on the Community Connectors team to help accelerate the culture shift from a custodial support model that only got stronger during the pandemic when we were all being encouraged to not interact with other people, to one that really promotes inclusion and belonging. And the Community Connectors were critical to the success of the pilot. They delivered training and served as role models for other staff. And let me give you an example of how they made a difference. Over the last year or so, around 14 people moved into new homes in the community, as I mentioned just a couple minutes ago. And in the lead up to those moves, the Community Connections team worked very closely with the people themselves and their staff to learn what was important to them. This information helped to shape recruitment for the teams of direct support professionals who would be supporting them in their homes, and gave some early guidance on how to support each person to thrive in their new community. So Meaningful Connections, the project, might be over, but the culture change that came out of Meaningful Connections will carry on. We've updated policies and job descriptions, established touch points and accountability, and developed staff training. There's also a great toolkit full of resources to help support a person to connect to their community, and you can find that on Blink in the hub. All of those technical pieces I just mentioned, the training, the job descriptions, policy, and so on, those are all there to help us make our vision real in people's lives. Supporting a person to belong and to find their place in community really is the heart of our work, no matter what our specific job description is. So I think now's a great time to invite Chantal to the stage to provide some updates on the strategic plan. Chantal?
Thanks, Ben. Hello, bonjour. It's great to see all of you here in person, and hello to those of you who are joining online. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. It's my pleasure to be here today to provide you with an update on behalf of the Strategic Plan Implementation Committee and the Project Management Office. We'll review the progress and successes from this past year, and I'll share an overview of what lies ahead as we move into the second year of our strategic plan. We have a lot to be proud of this first year, and when I say we, I'm referring to all of us. Each team and individual who has contributed to the success of these initiatives or projects. This is truly a collective effort. Here are some of the many achievements. 15 people have moved into new homes in the community, and we started supporting 5 people in a supported independent living cluster. They are making choices about where to do their grocery shopping and how they want to engage with their neighbors and when to go to sleep at night, sometimes for the first times in their lives. We advocated for and received permanent funding for the out-of-home children's respite and family support service we are offering in Winnipeg and Brandon. That means we are able to continue delivering this important service to children and their families. We have built a framework that transforms the direct support role from caretaker to connector, which will ensure that people we support will continue making connections within their community. We are focused on quality and investing in ensuring that we are delivering excellent services. We are embracing the use of GoldCare, our client management system, to ensure best possible communication across programs, which is resulting in best possible support for people. We are seeing vacancy rates decrease within areas that have been challenging to fill in the past, and we have strong relationships with funders. And I could go on, but now I'd like to share about what's coming for year 2. Last month, a strategy session was held with our executive team. In the morning, successes were reviewed along with the conditions that contributed to those wins, allowing us to replicate the positive outcomes. Time was also spent identifying the challenges faced over the year and diving deeper to understand their root causes. Key performance indicators, the targets we use to measure our progress, were then reviewed and revised. In the afternoon, potential opportunities and trends for the upcoming year were identified, followed by a focus on the key priorities that will bring us closer to our vision, goals, and objectives. Here are the priorities that were identified. A continuation of the stabilization work we started in year 1, with a focus on implementing the recommendations that will improve the stabilization service at Health and Transition Services and allow us to begin discussions about a continuum of stabilization services. We will do the same for Children's Respite and Family Support Service delivered by Community Services and Clinical Services. These are both examples of providing the right service in the right place at the right time. Another example of this is our continued exploration of how we support children with medical complexity and neurorehabilitation at Health and Transition Services. The vision is a coordinated and integrated system of care across the province. This will limit hospital stays and siloed care, and this is good for families. Prioritize advocacy for transitions of people supported at HTS into community, and as opportunities present, support people to make these moves. This means a better quality of life for these folks. Pursue accreditation for programs that are not already accredited to ensure that we are continuing to deliver excellent services. Continue our work to embed Lean Six Sigma, a process improvement methodology, into our organization to ensure that we are continuously improving and making the best use of the resources we have in a time of financial uncertainty. Policies and procedures in all HR functions will be reviewed and improved so that we can be sure that we're able to hire and retain the best staff possible. Evaluate submissions from a request for proposals for a new human resource information system and confirm costs so that we may find the budget we need to purchase and implement a system that will service our needs today and into the future. Gold Care will continue to be embedded throughout the organization to ensure that we have one true source of information and that the experience for families and people we support is seamless and coordinated. Implement new policies in pursuit of removing unnecessary rights restrictions and minimizing the use of restraints, and to ensure that when restraints are used, they are used as a last resort, and they are applied in the least restrictive manner for the shortest time possible. The revised Respectful Workplace Policy will be rolled out, and the roles and responsibilities of DEIA leads will be clarified and communicated because we remain committed to fostering an inclusive, respectful, diverse, and equitable community where all people are empowered to bring their authentic selves. And we will continue to pursue our objective to ensure that staff have the right training to do their jobs well. In large part, the focus continues to be laying the foundation for us as we pursue our vision of an inclusive Manitoba where everyone is empowered to live their best life. So what happens now? Project plans will be developed to define the work, and you will see project announcements coming via Blink in early May. Some of you may be invited to participate in a project team, so stay tuned for that. Program leaders have been invited to schedule their own strategy sessions to spend some time reflecting on the past year and identify program-level priorities for the coming year. If you have any questions about the strategic plan or the priorities for year 2, I encourage you to connect with your director. And thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you so much, Chantal. It's a really exciting year ahead that we've got. Looking forward to sharing more over the coming year. Now I'd like to invite Pearl and Ibukun to come forward and provide some updates on work coming out of the Disrupting Racism project. Welcome to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. So let me provide some overview before I introduce Pearl to the stage. Sometimes in November 2021, I got a correspondence from Shared Health about how we can work together in the health sector in Manitoba to dismantle, that's the word they used, racism at workplaces. So we met, and I was surprised when I got that call. This team had CEO of some SDOs, service delivery organizations, head of HRs, and CEO of hospitals, CMDs, and so on and so forth. We had conversations, we met from then till February 2023. We launched a provincial survey to look at the issues of racism in the workplace. For St.Amant, we launched it on June 12, 2023, and we ended it on June 28, 2023. We're allowed to do our own the way we want to do it because we don't want to be lost in the SDOs. So that's why we customized our own. And that was supported by CHI, Center for Health Innovation, University of Manitoba. We had some good recommendations, I would call it good, and some feedback. And since then, we've been working very hard to make sure that we listen to the feedback and come up with solutions. On the level of St.Amant, we launched a project, which I call it with Michelle Everton, and we've been working so hard to make sure that we do the right thing. Let me say this. We're supposed to launch the next one sometimes this year. Excuse me. But because we want to make sure that at the provincial level, because we want to make sure that some of the feedback that they gave and some of the initiative that that people wanted, that they are introduced. So we felt we need more time to be able to do the right thing before we launch the next survey. Some of the things we've done on the level of St.Amant are one, we've been able to put DEI on the agenda so that people can talk about it with comfort. So in the town hall, in the leaders meeting and the executive level, they do talk about it right now. And also we've been able to launch the position statement. Why do we need that? It's very important because we need to declare our stance when it comes to racism and our issues. Also, we've been able to launch the self-declaration project so that people can declare how and what they want to be described. The essence of this is very important for those of you that have not done it. We need to know the demographics of our people. That will help us to be able to define programs and initiatives that will meet the needs of people. So that is why that is launched. It's very confidential, and I encourage people that have not done it to please do it. It takes just less than 2 minutes to do it if you have not done it. And also, we've been able to launch the Inclusive Imagery Guide. Why is that important? We want a reflection of our community when you communicate. So that is on Blink as well. The biggest part of it is the respectful workplace policy, like Michelle mentioned, Chantal mentioned. That policy is one of the bedrock of policies in every organization because it encourages fairness and respect and how that people are being treated. We're working on that, and it's going to the final stage right now. It will be launched soon. We still have one on the intranet that we're still using, but when that comes up, it replaces that. On that note, I will introduce Pearl, the HR director, to please give us the high-level updates on that policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibukun. So I am pleased to share some updates with respect to the Respect for Workplace policy. As part of our ongoing commitment to fostering respect, inclusive, and safe work environment, we updated our Respectful Workplace policy to ensure clarity, accountability, and workplace restoration. These updates will ensure employees have well-defined pathways for reporting concerns and that the organization prioritizes resolution and recovery after workplace conflicts. Key changes include the incorporation of diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility principles, clearer reporting procedures, workplace restoration initiatives, and updated terms and definitions. Some of the key updates: incorporation of DEIA principles. There is an expanded policy scope to emphasize equity and accessibility alongside diversity and inclusion. There is a commitment to fostering a workplace free of bias, discrimination, and systemic barriers. Under diversity, the Respectful Workplace policy ensures all employees feel valued and that diverse perspectives are welcomed. Under equity, the policy promotes fairness in hiring, promotions, and workplace resources, ensuring all employees have what they need to succeed. Under inclusion, the policy sets expectations for inclusive behavior and zero tolerance for discrimination or exclusion. And accessibility, the policy includes accommodations for employees with disabilities and promotes an accessible work environment. Other updates include clearer reporting procedures. There are streamlined reporting channels with step-by-step guidance on how employees can raise concerns. There are multiple reporting options, including confidential reporting mechanisms to ensure accessibility and protection against retaliation, and defined response timelines to ensure timely investigation and resolution of complaints. And lastly, under that area are enhanced reporting and accountability with streamlined procedures for reporting and addressing workplace harassment and discrimination. Under workplace restoration initiatives, there is the introduction of restorative workplace practices to rebuild trust and repair relationships after workplace conflicts. There are mediation and facilitated discussion options available to support resolution between impacted employees. And there's an emphasis on psychological safety and team cohesion following disputes or investigations. There are also new and updated terms and definitions included in the policy. These updates reflect our ongoing dedication to building an inclusive and equitable workplace where all employees feel respected, valued, heard, supported, and empowered to thrive. Ongoing training and awareness initiatives will ensure all team members understand their rights and responsibilities under this revised policy. Thank you for your time, and I will turn it back over to Ben.
Okay, Ibukun and Pearl, thank you both so much. Now, I'd like to invite Laureen to come to the stage to talk about Lean Six Sigma.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the cool concept, Lean Six Sigma. Sounds very complicated, but it's not actually. So when Chantal talked earlier about the vacancy rate being reduced, this is actually the approach we used in achieving that feat. Lean Six Sigma is just a combination of two. This is weird. I'm sorry, guys. Lean Six Sigma just comprises of two basic words, compound words, Lean and Six Sigma. Lean focuses on waste removal, making your processes more efficient. Thank you very much. Making your processes more efficient and reducing waste. And then Six Sigma focuses on data, using data to error-proof our processes. For companies that don't use Lean Six Sigma, they come to you and they say, we have these problems, how do we solve them? But no, Lean Six Sigma says we have to look at those problems as a process. When we improve the processes, we solve the problem. So having said that, so we use 5 basic concepts, 5 structured concepts that is called DMAIAC. It just is an acronym that represents define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. The first 2 is understanding the problem, defining it and measuring it. And then the other 2, analyzing the problem and then fixing it. When I started with HR, I first initiated with recruitment, and I needed to know what the problem was. And I was told, oh, we do have inefficiencies, there are delays everywhere, we have all of this. And then we got the team together, everybody came together, we said, oh, we need to solve this problem, right? And then we took some basic steps by defining the problem, understanding what the current process is as of today, fixing it, conducting extensive stakeholder interviews of people who are directly impacted by those processes, and then collecting data and analyzing it and coming up with solutions as a team. After that, just to give you a visual of what it looks like, to explain those steps further, I have to explain how this works. You have the high-level overview of what a process is all about. Recruitment had their processes into segments depending on need of various departments, various programs. Everyone here has somehow interfaced with recruitment when they come in, so you have associated with this process at some point. So you see the high-level process that says we just have 8 basic steps that gives us the output, which is hire a new employer the same day to resume ready for work. And then when we broke down the process, sorry, this image is so tiny, we got 82 steps of activities, decisions, and everything that is being done to achieve that employee resuming on that same day. This shows the large scale of work that is involved in every process, and which is why we need to look at problems as processes, look at those activities, and find a way to also reduce redundancies. And what have we done? Another critical part of our process was to engage our stakeholders. We came together, engaged all the departments, every single hiring manager. If I haven't called you, I'm so sorry. Every single hiring manager, but I think we got most of them, about 20 departments, and collected basic feedback. And then when we collected them, we analyzed all the processes, all the feedbacks, and categorized it into the basic 80-20 rule. What does it say to us? 80% of what we have. When we solve 20% of our problems, we solve 20% of our problems to solve 80%. And then we proceeded with data collection. The team were so helpful. Everybody was involved. Documenting is a very rigorous process of documenting data items, collecting it daily, recording and analyzing, coming up with feedback, and looking at how the process impacts the waste in the process, the redundancies. Just to show you a brief, Marcel, you missed out something here. I had a document that showed how the data looked, showing how the variation in the process pointed us to where the root causes are and how we can fix those problems. And major findings, the waste categories were in 5 basic steps. We had waiting waste, which everybody experiences here in their processes somehow. Maybe you're waiting for a task from another department or another function, or you're waiting for, you're overproducing. And waiting waste causes inventory to build up. It causes backlog. And then your overproduction, maybe you are doing something ahead of time that you shouldn't do, and when you're now finally ready to use it, you have to do it all over again. All those little things are the things that contribute to waste in our processes, and which is why we have to break down these processes into activities and steps. Find out those non-value item activities that we've accumulated over time and take them out so that we can achieve that result of a lean and efficient process. Having said that, look at the achievements we've made. The team has been so wonderful, and they made this achievement so far. The vacancies we're talking about was achieved through this process. We've improved communication a lot, and we are looking at making more giant strides into going to excellence, the 6 Sigma level of excellence. And having said that, I just want to mention that 6 Sigma is a culture. It's not just a project. It's something that has to be continuous, and everybody has to be conscious of those wastes in your process. All those activities, you have to make tea, you have to go get coffee, go this, go do that, but nobody talks about the length of time you walk to the place to get it. So we're just looking at those basic steps that takes out that process, those non-value added waste from our process. And thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry, that was great. Thank you.
Lorene, thank you so much. That was awesome. We talk a lot about how to get the results that we want in a person's life or in our work, it takes both a big heart and technical skill. This is a great example of how it takes careful analysis, and implementation of technical steps to achieve an outcome, in this case hiring, which can mean the difference between a fully staffed home or a home that's not fully staffed, having a clinician available to do work or someone sitting on a wait list. And so it's really important work. Thank you so much. Okay. Sure, one more round of applause. Yeah. Now, I'd like to invite Michelle to come to the stage to talk to us about the engagement survey results. Michelle?
Okay, hi everybody. I'm here today to provide a bit of an update on the overall results of the engagement survey that ran back in the fall. So the survey was conducted by Metrics at Work, and they're the ones who collect and hold all of the data from the survey. They never share any individual data back with St.Amant, and they only report aggregated data in groups of 5 or more people. So your participation is confidential, and the results that Metrics at Work shares back with St.Amant are anonymous. Metrics at Work describes engagement as an employee's ability to be present and productive at work, and there's many different factors that affect our ability to be present and productive, or in other words, how engaged we are. From things like our perceptions about job clarity and feeling comfortable being ourselves at work, to how we feel about our work-life balance or our ability to communicate with senior leaders in the organization. Metrics at Work measures 43 different drivers of engagement through the statements that you saw in the survey. When employees take the time to share their feedback in surveys like this one, it helps us do some benchmarking, either against other similar organizations or to measure our own progress from year to year. And it helps us see where there are strengths that can be leveraged or maintained, or where there are opportunities for improvement. And then we're able to take this evidence-informed plan to take some action. So when we look at the response rates from the survey, we did a great job this year. We saw a response rate of 50.2%, which is amazing, and that is the highest rate that I remember seeing in the last 10 years or so. So thank you to everybody who took the time to respond and to support your teams to respond as well. That was an increase of 12.3% compared to the last time that we did the survey in 2021, though it's a little bit lower than the WHA overall response rate. So we're pretty close to where we were at last year in terms of the actual engagement score, which is on the next slide. So our overall engagement score in the 2024 survey is 69.9%. This is a little bit lower than what we saw in 2021, which we were at 71.2%, but still a strong score and certainly one that we should be proud of. It's also a little bit higher than the WHA overall score. They were at 68.7% this year. So that just gives you a little bit of idea of how we compare to others in the region. There is a lot of data in the survey, and I only have a few minutes here, so I'm just going to focus on the top 5 strengths and challenges that came out of the survey overall. So the strengths are identified by the statements that had the strongest agreement across the organization. So if you did the survey, you might recall that you would see a statement and then you were able to indicate how strongly you agreed or disagreed from a scale of 0 to 4, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So these are the 5 statements that had the most or the strongest agreement across the organization. The strongest agreement was around job clarity, or the statement that I understand what's expected of me in my job. This was followed by agreement with the statement that negative behavior among coworkers is not tolerated. Third was the sense that the people that I work with treat me with respect, followed by agreement with the statement that the people I work with treat each other with respect. And then finally, number 5 on the list is the sense that the people that I work with help each other out. So these are our top strengths as an organization this year. Whereas the top strengths represent the most agreement with statements, the challenges represent the most disagreement, meaning that these are the statements that the majority of respondents disagreed with the most. So we saw the most disagreement with a statement that I'm paid fairly for the work that I do, followed by a sense that there are sufficient opportunities for career advancement at this site or at St.Amant. The third challenge that we saw was around workload stress. The fourth item had two statements associated with it. So there was disagreement with the statement that the benefits plan meets my and my family's needs, as well as the retirement plan meeting my and my family's needs. And then finally, there was disagreement with the statement that the pace of change and growth is comfortable at this organization. There is a lot of similarity between our strengths and challenges and those that are experienced in the WHA overall. So the ranking, the order of items is generally a little bit different, but for the most part, the top 10, when we have additional data to look at, they're the same as the WHA. So there is quite a bit of alignment between what we're experiencing here at St.Amant and what's happening in the sector more broadly. We know that there's work to do to improve some of our challenge areas, and we also know that we want to acknowledge and celebrate the strengths that exist here in the organization. So what comes next? There's lots of data in these reports, and so program leaders are taking some time to review their program level reports right now. There's quite a bit of alignment between the program level results and the organizational level results, but we also know that there are some factors that are unique to programs. And so it takes a little bit of time to go through all of this data and understand what makes sense to work on at an organizational kind of collaborative level and what is really unique to a program. That's the step that comes next. The executive team will take a look at some of the feedback coming from teams to understand where there is something that we can address as an organization as a whole, and where there are some items to move forward that are really specific to a program or a team. And then some action plans to move forward with those pieces will be confirmed a little bit later in the spring. So I want to end with just a big thank you to everybody who participated in the survey, as well as supporting your colleagues to participate in the survey as well. It's really important and critical for organizations to get feedback about what's going well and where there's room for improvement so that we know where to focus our energy. It takes your time and your energy to share your feedback, and it is deeply appreciated. We couldn't move forward without it. So thank you again for your participation in the survey, and thanks for your time here today.
Okay, Michelle, thank you so much. And you can be sure that we'll continue to talk about what we learned through this consultation process with you as we try to figure out how to continue to make St.Amant an even better place to work and to contribute your gifts. Now it is time for our panel discussion. So I would like to invite our panelists, Nance and Courtney, Aaron, and Carol to come to the stage.
Hello.
Everyone's good for mics? Nobody wants to use a mic? Okay. Okay. All right. I love the panels. I know the panelists are going to love it too. And I know you'll all love it the most. So, get all cozy. Yes? Okay, there we go. All right, so we are here to talk about supporting people to stay in their homes and in their communities. And that's because we all know that people do their best when they're in a stable and supportive environment. I think it's true for everyone in this room, and it's true for all of the people that we support. Sometimes, though, children and adults might experience challenging behaviors that can result in families or caregivers feeling overwhelmed, sometimes to the point where that family or placement could break down. I think everyone on this stage, everyone in this room wants people to thrive, and we want people to be recognized for their gifts and celebrated for what they contribute to their communities. That's why St.Amant provides so many services that support people who are in crisis. So today, we're going to hear from leaders from 3 separate crisis stabilization services, as well as the coordinator of our nonviolent crisis intervention training. 3 guesses as to who has that job. Yeah. So joining me on the stage, we've got Carol Moore, clinical resource nurse for the stabilization services and adult health services, Courtney Bond, the manager for social work and counseling, as well as the lead for the community stabilization service. We've got Erin Huber, who is the coordinator of the Children's Community Respite and Family Support Service, and of course, Nance Beverly, the coordinator for nonviolent crisis intervention and quality services. Let's give them one more round of applause to make sure they feel nice and welcome on the stage. So we'll do this sort of round table style, and so I'm going to ask Erin this question first, but then I'm going to ask Courtney and Carol the same question. So Erin, please tell us about your service, the Children's Community Respite and Family Support Service. What is it? Who does it serve? And what are the goals of the service?
Thank you, Ben. Our program started as a pilot project in 2022 with a goal to address unmet needs for families living in the community who were raising children with autism and other developmental disabilities, and giving them the supports that they needed to continue to care for their children with exceptional disability-related needs at home with them, rather than those children enter out-of-home care. And we have 2 homes. One in Winnipeg, one in Brandon. We have supported 40 different families to date, and right now are supporting 15 different children and families across both the homes. We did start as a pilot project, but I'm super happy to say that we now have permanent funding.
Yes, that deserves applause. So Erin, I've got a quick follow-up for you. Can you just elaborate a little bit on, what are some of the reasons someone might need to use a service like the Children's Respite and Family Support?
Sure. So before returning to St.Amant to coordinate this wonderful program, I spent 11 years in emergency child welfare. And what I saw was children with autism and other developmental disabilities coming into emergency care because their families lacked the practical supports to keep them at home. When children were smaller, sometimes it was easier to have other family members or respite workers help with those caregiving duties. But as kids got older, behaviors got more complex. These families found themselves without any other external supports and ended up breaking down and those kids coming into care.
Thanks, Erin. And I think we all would rather see children grow up with their families than otherwise, hey? Okay, thanks. Courtney, I'm going to turn the floor to you and ask you the same questions. So tell us about the Community Stabilization Service. What is it? Who does it serve? And what are the goals of the service?
Thanks, Ben. So good morning, everyone. My name is Courtney Bond. I am the manager within clinical services, specifically social work and counseling. One of the programs that I oversee is the Community Stabilization Service, and that is the one that I will be discussing today. So the Community Stabilization Service, or CSS, is a multidisciplinary service, and it includes psychology, nursing, psychiatry, pharmacy, and social work. CSS works with adults who are supported either by the family or an agency in the community who are at risk of losing housing because their care teams are having difficulty managing their challenging behaviors. The purpose of CSS is to stabilize a person supported by educating the team around them about the person's needs through both psychology and health education and training. CSS is a brief service, which often sees people from start to finish within just a few months. By completing a multidisciplinary clinical assessment, the team identifies and provides recommendations to the care team. The CSS team is also able to provide support with the most critical recommendations, and this is often through the assistance of the behavior analyst and the psychology technician. In addition to client-specific work, CSS also provides education on a variety of clinical topics in order to strengthen the capacity of care teams and to successfully support a person with complex, challenging behavior in the community.
Thank you, Courtney. Courtney, can you elaborate a little bit, maybe give an example or two of some of the reasons a person might need to access the CSS?
Of course, there are a lot of different reasons that someone might be referred to CSS, and it would vary from person to person. I do think that there are some themes, though, that we often see. Some of these are mental health issues for the person or the population that we support. We are still seeing the effects of the pandemic. So we realize the pandemic is now over, but we are not done with the impacts of it. And I suspect that this is something that we will continue to see for the next little while. A lack of routine or daily activities is another theme that often comes up, as well as just overall, I think the care team needing to better understand or wanting to better understand the impact of the person's physical and mental health diagnoses.
Carol, now it's your turn. We only have one mic, so I'll ask you the question again. Tell us about the stabilization service. Who's it for? What are you trying to accomplish?
Thanks, Ben. Stabilization Services is a 17-bed, 9 that are acute, in-house program designed for both children and adults facing potential loss of their community placements due to severe behavioral challenges. Admissions are considered after other community options have been explored and deemed ineffective. It is an intense program with the goal of stabilizing a person for successful discharge back to their home. Our interdisciplinary team, which includes professionals from psychiatry, psychology, nursing, pharmacy, NCI trainers, managers, and personal support workers. They all play a crucial role in the stabilization process. Once an individual is assessed as stable, then the team collaborates with their community partners, such as parents, community home staff, schools, community clinicians, to facilitate a successful discharge and reintegration into the community.
Thank you very much. So it sounds like whereas the programs that Courtney and Aaron described are community-based, in the case of the stabilization unit, things have reached a point where a person needs to be removed from their typical environment to get a very intense kind of specialized service. Okay, so can you maybe help us understand, illustrate a little bit more what might lead a person to need that level of support?
So people that are at risk of losing community, placement through breakdown, or they're waiting suitable community placements or discharge from hospital.
Okay, thank you. So all three of you have spoken about the importance of the interdisciplinary nature of the services that you provide. Carol, I'm going to stick with you for this one, and then we'll go down the line. Why is that interdisciplinary approach so important when supporting people who have crisis stabilization needs?
Okay, so the whole team is dedicated to supporting each individual comprehensively, offering diverse perspectives. So everybody brings something different to the table that will facilitate the personal success for that person. Some of the key areas of support that we have that we utilize in stabilization are psychiatry. Dr. Hall, our psychiatrist, provides medication reviews, diagnosis if needed for stuff. We have psychology, which are important for implementing behavior management plans, delivering training to staff and families to ensure effective support both in-house and once returned to their home environment. The personal support workers who hoorah to them. They engage with our individuals around the clock. They make sure that everything is being followed according to the behavioral guidelines that psychology puts in place.
Okay, thank you so much. Courtney, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I think just surrounding the multidisciplinary team, this is one of the things I think makes CSS so strong. I think when you have a number of different people with a number of different lenses, that is an incredible strength, because what it allows is for everyone to look at the same person, the care team, the same situation, and just see it a little differently. So as opposed to coming at a situation just from one angle, by having that multidisciplinary approach, it allows a team to come and discuss what they are seeing and really provide a service holistically.
Yeah, it's often that constellation of needs that come together to maybe contribute to the overall situation, right? So having, yeah, that's great. Thank you. Erin, anything you'd like to add?
Thanks. Yes, our team consists of a social worker, occupational therapist, a counselor, psych and behavioral supports, our safety facilitators, and they all work with the families to strengthen their confidence, their skills in being able to meet their child's needs and support them in the way that they need to be supported in order to be safe and successful at home. They also work directly with the children to, teach them skills, life skills, communication skills, all the things that they need and that they deem important for themselves. And of course, I have to mention our direct support staff as well. These are the staff in the respite homes that work with the kids, and they meet them where they're at. They build positive relationships and really just try to help them to lead full lives.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Now, this is the perfect time to bring Nance into the conversation. Nance, all the services that we've talked about, you've been acknowledged a couple times already. They all involve the nonviolent crisis intervention, the training that you provide, and the supports that you and your team provide. So for those who maybe aren't familiar with nonviolent crisis intervention, or NCI, can you tell us what is NCI and why is it important?
I sure can, Ben. Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy. Ultimately, my job truly is to help the people we support have the best quality of life by giving their teams the tools they require to ensure safety for everyone. After all, only once everyone's safe can we truly thrive, grow, and participate fully in every day. So I teach nonviolent crisis intervention, which is provided to us through the Crisis Prevention Institute. The training is about safely supporting those individuals who may have behaviors that present a risk to themselves or someone else. The training helps our employees recognize, prevent, and manage crisis situations using person-centered and trauma-informed approaches. Oh, you guys, I hate public speaking. Here we go.
Rocket it, Nance.
The training actually helps employees by providing them with a concrete model to help them recognize what the level of crisis may be that they're seeing and how to best de-escalate that situation. It also provides interventions on a continuum from our least restrictive options, such as a verbal intervention, to medium restrictive options such as disengagements if we happen to get grabbed, to more restrictive options of holds that we might use for a minimum amount of time to ensure that the person can keep themselves safe again. So far this year, we've had 150 plus employees move through our training in 23 days of training. We have one going on upstairs right now. Kudos to Jabril for teaching the class for the next 2 days. We've taught employees from community services, community residential programs, stabilization, adult services, and our autism services. Also a quick shout out to Brian, who also picks up training when he can. And comes to Brandon, as does Jabril, to do training specific to the Brandon home. So the Crisis Prevention Institute is actually running a pilot project that I was lucky enough to have St.Amant support me to take part in. So we have a new training that we just started in January. It's called De-Escalating Challenging Behaviors for Families and Caregivers. First time in Manitoba, so really excited to be able to do this. It is based on the NCI framework, so folks are still learning about crisis. They're still learning about disengagements and holds and verbal de-escalations. Currently, we've run 4 full classes. We have 6 more scheduled, but the first 3 are fully booked again, which is amazing, and we've been able to provide support to families in all areas. They just have to have a child that's receiving some services from St.Amant, or an adult receiving some services from St.Amant. I think that's it, guys. I don't know what's on my next page.
Well, that was great, Nance.
That's it.
Thank you so much. So you're not off the hook yet. Okay, thank you, Nance. You're not off the hook yet. We're coming to the last question of our panel, and I'm going to stick with you for this one. The last question that I'd love to hear an answer from everyone on the panel is, tell us about the impact of the service that you're providing. And Nance, I wonder if you can talk specifically about the impact of the family training. This is something that, and there's some people in the room who know we've been talking about for probably almost 10 years, and to finally see it happen is like a dream come true. What has it meant for families?
Wow. Well, we've seen parents, grandparents, cousins all come to classes in hopes of keeping their children at home as long as possible. I wish I could show you the aha moments on the faces of some of the families when they recognize that they have perhaps been a piece of the escalation of what's going on in the home. It's truly amazing, the tears that come and the realization that we can impact those situations at home better. But my favorite moment was when I had a grandparent tell me after class that they had been fearful of taking their grandson into the community and trying to manage them physically because he thought he was going to get, the police were going to show up at his door and charge him with abuse. So he was so thankful after the class to be able to say he's now able to manage those situations in a way that keeps everybody safer. So he will continue to take his grandson out in the community.
That's wonderful. Nance, thanks for sharing that. Aaron, same question. Tell us about the impact of that service on families.
We don't have enough time for me to tell you all about the positive, but I will tell you that parents report feeling refreshed and loving their child that much more when they come home from respite, that's a direct quote, and that's my favorite one. Staff and myself, we've noticed changes in physical appearance of the parents from when they started our program, and 6 months or a year in, they look better. They seem like they're in a better mood. They just seem like it's really about quality of life, right? And for the children that come to respite, we really focus on recreation and community connection. So those kids get tons of opportunities to try new things, get out and into their community, do lots of fun things that they maybe haven't had the experience before, and also making friends and connections at the respite home with other kids as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Courtney, anything you'd like to say about the impact of the CSS?
Thanks, Ben. I think overall, certainly the CSS team has a lot to be proud of. I think they do some really great work. In connecting with the team, I think one of the things I hear often is just being able to assist both the person as well as their care team so that they can remain in their home. It's very scary to think that you might need to move, that you might need to go somewhere else. That's a huge change, and I think through the CSS team to be able to receive support so that that's no longer the case is really very impactful. And sorry, I want to go back again a little bit to that multidisciplinary piece I spoke of, because I think it's really important again. So with those impacts through psychology, looking at behavior strategies, through social work, being able to understand the person and their strengths and where they might be coming from. And for example, in nursing, looking at someone's mental health and physical health and understanding how to support them. Those are all such important areas. And I think because our team looks at all of them, we are able to really help with the success of an individual as well as their care teams.
Thank you very much. Carol?
Kind of the same thing, like for successful stabilization affects actually both the individual and their whole support network, which enables them to lead a more fulfilling life, which is what everybody wants. The individuals requiring stabilization here often face kind of unique and challenging circumstances, but with the support and assistance of the whole team, they acquire the skills necessary to thrive within the community.
Okay, thank you very much. That was fantastic. I think everyone in the audience can see just how important these services are. And, I just want to, first of all, thank everyone for all this amazing work, and thanks to everyone on your teams. I want to just observe that the 3 services we're talking about today are all funded through different funders, and they each have their own referral process and their own rules. One of the things that we really want to do, and Chantal referenced this a little bit earlier, is really work to bring these together to have a coherent continuum of services and the ability to make sure people are being served in the right place in the right time in the least restrictive environment or the most appropriate environment. So that's some of the exciting work we've got ahead, but every service here is about helping a person be their best self and thrive in their community. So one more round of applause for our panelists, please. Thank you all very much. You're good to go. Everyone's escaping, okay. Okay. Is this mic on now? Yeah. So they're escaping from the stage, but you can't escape the room just yet. It's time for the open mic. And then you got to stay for cookies and coffee. So I don't know where the mic is. Oh, it's right there. And I will invite the first brave soul to come forward with a question. Sharon has a question. None of these are planted questions. I do not know what Sharon's about to say.
No, you don't. No, I can vouch for that too.
Yeah.
And because I have to use the mic, I have it written down so I don't miss anything. So in previous years when the clinical services referral form was updated, a draft was sent to clinicians for feedback before the new version was released. Why were clinicians not given the opportunity to provide feedback on the newest version of the clinical services referral form? The newest version lacks essential information for clinicians to do their job, such as diagnoses, results in less efficient use of clinician time, and we're talking about efficiencies, and the formatting increases errors in personal health information, and this could have been prevented. And I don't mean to speak on behalf of all of the clinicians, but I know I'm not the only one that feels this way.
So Sharon, thanks for asking the question. I would really need to defer to Mandy to help to answer that question. Normally, developing any form is a bit of an iterative process, and so if there's feedback, I know, Mandy and anyone else involved in developing the form, they're all committed to the best product at the end. And so I'd really invite you to talk to Mandy, and she's not here today, but I'm seeing her tomorrow, and I'll let her know that the question came forward. Okay, thank you for bringing that forward. Okay. There's a vacant mic. Oh, I see someone coming forward.
You really make it intimidating to come up and ask a question.
Welcome. Glad you're here.
I also wrote it down because, yeah. So in my role, I'm consistently seeing youth who live with autism who are struggling to find belonging. So these are typically kids and teens. They're verbal, they're socially motivated. These youth don't feel connected when participating in opportunities that are geared towards peers with higher support needs. Yet when they're engaging with neurotypical peers, they're finding they're also unable to engage effectively. In my role, I'm seeing consequences of these situations. They go beyond just having friends to eat lunch with, seeing teens turning to online world where they're at risk and experiencing negative impacts on mental health, both for them and their parents. So my question, after that background, what's St.Amant doing to support meaningful connections in our younger autistic population under 18?
So thank you for that question. So I think this is an area of unmet need where we would need to probably, I don't think I can answer this all by myself. I'm looking at some of my colleagues in the room who might have some insight into this as well, but I think this is maybe an area where we would need to look for some funding outside of government to explore a pilot or something like that to find, a way to respond to those needs. Just as there's a huge gap for adults who have autism but who do not qualify for CLDS, there may be, that same cohort, just a few years younger, who have other kinds of support needs. And so, if it's not St.Amant that's meeting those needs, then we ought to find ways to connect them with another organization. But if there is no one meeting that need and there are opportunities, the question of funding is its own question, right? But to understand what those needs are so that we can advocate for some opportunities to meet those needs, let's have a conversation about that. Okay, thanks for the question. We're getting some good, substantial questions today. Thank you. I think we've got time for a couple more. Any other questions today? Oh, we got one. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity on the floor.
Sorry, just come a little closer to the mic. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to have this question period. I just wanted to inquire in regards to our parking lot. I understand that our costs will be going up for parking, and I can appreciate that that is then broken down into other subsections. But just my question is as to whether or not there will be a comprehensive thing posted on Blink that shows how that money is being allocated, where that money is being allocated, and what the difference that is being created or caused by that. And I understand that it's also going to be going up in 26 as well. So what are the changes that we're going to be happening in this year and in 26 that echoes that?
So you're right. So thanks for the question. So parking prices went up 10%, I believe. That's partly in response to the reality that parking rates had not increased for well over 10 years, so they'd been flat for a really long time. And the cost of maintaining a parking lot is surprisingly expensive. And so some of the pressures are simply, the costs of keeping the parking lot free of snow, plowing in the winter, include adding those bright, I don't know what they're called, those sort of poles so you don't smash your car into the concrete. All those things cost money, right? And they cost more money today than it did before because of inflation. So those are some of the drivers for that. There is some information on Blink that outlines what the increase in fees will cover. And of course, the money does also, the parking lot is owned by the foundation. And so, where there is any additional cost, that the foundation provides services to people. Their mandate is to meet the unmet needs of people we support. And so while the parking lot is not the primary revenue driver for fundraising, where there is some money left over, it would go towards improving people's quality of life.
Marvelous. So will there be a percentage breakdown per employee to whom pays for the parking lot of where that money is being allocated? So again, 10% is going to the foundation, 10% is going to improving the parking lot, 10% is going to that ticket booth so that can be indoors. Just a comprehensive breakdown of where that money is being allocated and how it's being allocated.
Yeah, I don't know that I can commit to that in this moment, but we can certainly take that away for some consideration.
Marvelous. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the question. Okay. All right, I think we got time for one more question, if there is one. People are voting with their silence for cookies. So I think that's a good time to wrap up the town hall. I want to thank you all so much for giving your time this morning. Thank you to all of our presenters. Thank you to the panelists. Great job. And I wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you very much.